Because the fact of the matter is that I don't want to mess with it right now. But I will say that as I start the show.
And what is the it you don't want to mess with for everybody who just joined?
The intro video. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday. It is time. That's the old intro. Where it's the sixth ever episode of Monitor Duty. The sixth episode in the last forever years.
Yeah, it's real sick.
It's been a bunch. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in today. We're here to talk about Batman and Deadpool, the recent comic that has come out. And this was Twitless's idea. So if you guys go out and buy this book based on the show and you're disappointed, you know who to blame.
Oh my gosh, really?
There's a sales pitch if I ever heard one.
I mean, okay,
no, man.
We got to start.
To be honest, like honestly, like I'm giving you crap, man. But it's definitely a book for someone. I'm gonna say that because
can I foreground this a little bit?
Please, yes.
One thing that I think it's helpful to think about is, regardless of
there you go,
how we feel about aspects of this book, it's I think it's very important to situate this for what it is, which is a crossover comic. We just talked about the DC and Sonic the Hedgehog crossover comic, and we seem to be living in a new, interesting age of crossovers. Godzilla crosses over with everything known to man. He's crossed over with DC, Marvel recently, like Power Rangers. So but there's definitely a need.
Dave the Diver,
Charles Barkley.
No. I'm talking about recent stuff. I'm not talking about the old stuff. I'm talking about like recently.
Yeah, Dave the Diver has a Godzilla crossover too.
But I've seen so many. What's interesting though is that in this new age, I think this is influenced by our current zeitgeist with like the MCU and company. The recent was it Spider-Man No Way Home crossed over a bunch of Spider-Man franchise stuff.
Right.
The Marvel they're trying to do the Marvel multiverse thing for ages. All of that, regardless again of quality or what we feel about it, there's definitely this current of people who want to see your favorite toys come together. And Marvel and DC have done this before.
Smash Brothers effect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, or more recently, Fortnite. Fortnite brings everything
definitely
together.
Yeah. So in many different media, we're seeing this. So Marvel and DC have crossed over in the past. But after they were acquired by Disney, I know that the scuttlebutt was, oh my gosh, we'll never see this again. We'll never see Marvel and DC cross over again because Disney's lawyers will just, they'll just shut it all down. So there were a lot of people who thought this would never happen. So
some of us hoping it would never happen.
So one thing I want to point out is the fact that not only is this, very interesting that it came about, but I also think that my expectations going in are very much informed by the fact of what this is. In order to get Marvel and DC to cross over, there's a lot of negotiation that has to happen. There's a lot of story Bible writ as law kind of stuff where it's like Batman can't be depicted as Y, he can't lose to X. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and imagining how getting everyone in the same room to agree to be here's how we're going to have these characters interact so that because we have two competing IPs, right? So if you show one character being superior to the other, then you're also kind of in a corporate way showing that product is superior. So there's a fine line that probably had to be. I'd almost be very interested to see what those negotiations looked like, and I was very interested to see what the final product of this was. But it's important when going into it to have that, I think, in the back of our minds. We're living in a place of a time where lots of people want to see more crossovers and all their favorite toys being thrown together. And B, in order for Marvel and DC to cross over, there had to have been. Writing this must have been a challenge. You had to, there were negotiations, I imagine, that had to be done in order to make this happen and to satisfy not just the writers, but all of the corporate heads who were protecting these IPs. Sure. But I mean, I'm just getting the script together probably didn't just pass the writers and the editors. It probably had to pass some corporate head who had to make sure, well, is is Daredevil being treated properly in this story, or is shade getting tossed at him, which would be a competitive consideration, which is, I would imagine, quite a challenge to deal with, because it's one thing to just write a story, but then to have to manage these IPs the way you're doing. And so I just want to
Especially
kind
because
of
shade means nothing to Daredevil.
Yeah.
You can't even, see the light.
right. But you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying, though, right? This is not a typical comic book.
Yeah. This one, given what you were just talking about, that the one character can't like one up the other one and be better than the other one. It's like this has so many digs at Batman's character. It's like it's amazing that this got through. Given,
Yeah.
Really, because the way I read
All
it,
the jokes were
About
old
the
hat
way that
though.
Captain America was treated.
the way I read it though,
So much
Marvel.
disrespect.
Yeah, Marvel actually did quite a lot of bowing the head to DC in most of the book. In many cases, there was a lot of
Sure.
kind of So I thought that was really interesting to see how much deference that the Marvel characters were paying to the DC ones overall. But anyway, so like I said, that's just the foreground. We can get into our. I know there's a lot of very different opinions about it, but going into it, I just wanted to foreground, what
Yeah.
this is.
But- and I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's good.
No, I definitely feel that.
You were saying Metal?
Oh, I definitely feel that too. Specifically, what you're talking about, and obviously we'll get into it when we see specific things later. But all the jokes that Deadpool's allowed to make in this are older than I am. Right? Like they're no recent digs at Batman. They're things that people have been joking around forever. So they're the approved digs that you can make at Batman.
Well, I was gonna say a second ago that like even Batman makes these jokes about themselves at this point.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a very salient point, Metal, about the fact that it's like we have a jokey character. Deadpool is going to take digs at whoever he's paired with. Here's the approved dig list that you get to make. It's like I said, it's a dance, with this.
Well,
So.
and this is what's so interesting about this whole thing is because I think we can all agree this shouldn't be called Batman Deadpool. It should be called DC Marvel. Because there are 11 different stories in this book,
There's quite a bit.
and every single one of them tries to, like Sonic and DC, basically find the equivalencies between two very similar characters. Except this first one, which does the exact opposite.
Yeah. Do we want to just go around the room and just give our initial takes before we jump into it?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Fair.
All right. I feel like Hutch was coming in hot, so he should probably jump in first.
Well, I just wanted to. I mean, this opens with what's his name? Deadpool breaks through the window of Batman's Bruce Wayne's mansion, and it isn't quite clear why. He just says, well, you're a billionaire. I figured I'd sell my services to you, and then he leaves. But he gets in a lot of digs, when they mention Batman, he's like, Batman? That sounds stupid. Why would anybody think Batman would be scary? And then funniest part is when Commissioner Gordon has the bat signal shining in the sky, and Deadpool obviously climbed up the outside of the building and he's exhausted. Just free climbing up there. But it then gets them on a mission together and crams Deadpool into the Batmobile, where he begins making all these, oh yes, your shapely young boy playmate Robin type stuff, which is funny because 2 pages earlier he didn't know who Batman was, but now he's got all the the knees showing Robin costumes of old. He seems to know what they are. So.
Well, let's not
It's
forget,
weird.
of course, that this is Deadpool, and he breaks the fourth wall.
And he breaks the fourth wall, yeah.
he
So
can
that's
kind of
easy out.
know
It's
whatever
very
he
meta.
needs to at any
It's
one
very-
moment.
Yeah, it's very meta.
Sure.
The Gordon moment I completely agree with. Gordon's joke about him having as much time for him as Deadpool's dad. Deadpool says, "You sound like my dad. Bet I've got as much time for you too." That cracked me up. Gordon making a dad joke at Deadpool cracked me. I don't know if it's I'm not talking about if it's supposedly in character, but just Gordon being gruff and basically telling this guy to take a hike was funny.
Yes. Well, and the story as a whole. So the collection of stories as a whole, Hutch. Did you like or dislike it?
Uh, Overall, first of all, I have no idea who that fish is playing ball with Crypto. It's
Jeff.
never explained who
Yeah,
that
I
is.
don't
Jeff
know
the
who that
Land
is
Shark.
either.
Jeff
That's
the
a,
Land Shark.
I think that's
I have no idea who that is.
is that a Gwenpool thing?
I
Yeah.
believe it began as a
Oh.
Gwenpool thing, and now it's
Wow.
He's a
Hawkeye thing.
he's a character.
He's a favorite of
he's-
like
he's-
normies.
He's a character. I think his big claim to fame is he's in Marvel Rivals. He's a big.
Yeah.
He's
I
a,
don't
he's a
even
cha-
think he's a favorite with normies. I think he's a favorite of like nerds' girlfriends who get drugged to cons and don't know
it's
what
Marvel
they're looking
Rivals. It's
Marvel Rivals, like
It's
people who
Marvel
play
Rivals.
video games now, and
Well,
this is like
the thing
casual
he got into
gamers
Marvel
too.
Rivals, but the thing is, he got into Marvel Rivals for a reason. You know what I'm saying? It's like Marvel was trying to push Jeff the Land Shark for 5 years before Marvel Rivals came out.
Right, but him
Was it-
hitting
okay,
the zeit.
actually,
him
I'm gonna
hitting-
push
him
back on
hitting
that,
the
though.
zeit- Him hitting the zeitgeist is because of Marvel.
Because I
Rivals.
know a
think
lot
that's why
about the development of
Right.
Marvel Rivals, and the team has pretty much complete freedom on who they pick to be in the game. Somebody
Right.
at the team like Jeff the Land Shark.
It's also for a video game thing. He's
Forgive
very
me.
different.
Yeah,
It's
he
very
makes like a
different.
little like
It-
mascot character.
For a video game, it's So basically, that's why he's in the zeitgeist. I think that's why he's in this book.
Okay.
If I may, though, forgive me for saying this, but I'm such a long time fan of such and such a property that I don't know who this character is a weird flex.
Okay. So, anyway, aside from that, I thought it was interesting that they crossed over Captain America and Wonder Woman, because we've been talking about that, about how they will both be
Right.
public domain the same year.
I
basically.
thought of you.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought of you when I read it.
Yeah,
That's
because I
actually
keep calling him Steve. I keep calling him Steve Trevor instead
Steve
of
Trevor.
yeah, and I get them mixed up.
I
Yeah.
will say that the Wonder Woman Captain America story was my favorite of the entire book. The Deadpool Batman one was kind of mid for me. It was fine for what it was. I was like, okay, neither here nor there. The other ones, a lot of them were because there's several. There's like there's Daredevil and Green Lantern. There's Rocket Raccoon and the Guardians of the Galaxy. I could take or leave a lot of those. The Jeff Crypto one was like whatever. But the Captain America Wonder Woman one made me nostalgic for a comic that didn't exist.
Yeah.
Because the comic book continuity where Wonder Woman and Captain America have all of these adventures and they save the world from Galactus and do all this other stuff. I was like, I want to read that comic. I want to read that comic. I want to read this
Yeah.
continuity. It made me want to read an entire comic series that they alluded to, this whole continuity that looked really cool and interesting, but doesn't actually exist. And I was like,
Yeah.
that one's going to stick with me for a while, a lot longer than anything else in this.
That's like
crossover.
when the Justice League Avengers crossover, the 4-parter that finally happened, and in part 3, the two universes get merged into one, where the Avengers and the Justice League have always been like part of one unit, and they're talking about all these things getting together. I mean, it's like the Justice League of old, and the and like Green Arrow's talking about his chili recipe with the guys from Avengers, and it's like, yeah, you kind of like you think about all these the adventures, you wonder what all their adventures were like. They only hint at it, because it's like, here's the modern era of
Right.
these two characters who've been in one universe all this time. And yeah, I kind of wanted to see more of that, more
No,
than
definitely.
anything else. And I thought that it was cool that the very last thing is quite obviously a reference to the what is it called when DC and Marvel became one thing and they had Dark Claw adventures and
The
Amalgam.
Amalgam Universe.
amalgam universe. The last one's an amalgam thing. Yeah.
Here, share
Yeah.
my. I got an image pulled up. This is from the Captain America story, which again, like I said, I just love. Not only
Yeah.
do we get to see Wonder Woman fighting Galactus with the Fantastic Four, but there's actually they have this wonderful moment where Captain America steps in because at the beginning of the story, Captain America is about to kill Hitler, and Wonder Woman says, "Hey, we're better than that," and he listens to her. But at the end of the story, he pays her back by reminding her to not kill Maxwell Lord in that moment where she would have snapped his neck. So like these wonderful nods to current continuity, but by having the crossover, they're tweaked in a really interesting way, and it's in a way that's very, I think, in character for these guys. So it's really cool to be like, yeah, I could see Rogers and Diana like, being a good team and riffing off each other pretty well and even having a little bit of a romance. Like, again,
Yeah.
sign me up. I'll read this.
Yeah.
I will buy this comic.
Yeah, it really does seem fun. I really like that one. The worst one had to be Frank Miller's.
Oh,
Yeah, Dark Knight and
Yeah.
crosses over with Old Man Logan.
Can
It
we-
was just oh.
can I
Can I
defend that?
use
Can I
this?
defend that one? I have
Not
a way
until
to
I've
defend
said
that
what I
one.
have to say, because
Yeah,
I
yeah, not yet.
use this.
We'll go a little
Okay,
down that
okay.
way. I definitely want to do that
Okay.
footless, but let's
Sure, okay.
save that one. Don't bury the lead.
All right, all
Okay.
right.
So
Okay, I won't say anything more than it's up to you.
yeah. So Cartoonicus, what are your general thoughts on the book?
Well, I definitely liked the first one the most. I don't know if there were different amounts of time that each story was allotted or whatnot, but it almost felt as if that was the first story written and everything else was having to catch up after it. So it felt like it had the most care. It was very interesting to see how these two would go off each other since they were not equivalents. They actually complete opposites.
Mhm.
And I've made it no secret, I think, how much I hate the Joker. And usually in anything, if he's going to show up, the only thing I want to see is a bullet in his head and being put through a wood chipper. So if that's not going to happen, it was very nice that, one, he doesn't kill anybody in this. And two, the way he gets defeated is really satisfying. I mean, he just gets put in his place multiple times. And I could not help but smirk at some of that. That's like, yes, it was like watching the Lego Batman movie. It was like, this just feels so right.
Yeah, basically, Deadpool says he would make a better opponent to Batman, and
Yeah.
and he starts talking about basically the way Joker sees his relationship with Batman, and and I did love that part because, and you're right, the Joker is so tired as a character. It's back to the same old. I've got Joker venom. I'm going to release it on the city. It's not a plot. It's not a plot, really. It's just it's more.
I'm
just
okay
a
though with
reason
that,
for
though,
them to get
because the
together.
focus is clearly on Batman and Deadpool.
So remind
I'm
me.
just
who
saying.
did
I'm
the-
just saying. There's
the-
nothing
yeah.
unique about the way he's handled here.
The
He's-
other thing I really
That's true.
appreciated about this one was how I was kind of saying this before, the fact that Deadpool can break the fourth wall. It was like he was constantly able to pick up on the idiosyncrasies of Batman and the Joker that we already know, and he's like beating them to the punch with this stuff, right? He'll always be like predicting what they're gonna say next, or how like, oh, I'll bet you brood every night about that, which was actually really interesting. Another way that he was kind of able to put the Joker in his place, because he comes up with the stuff that Joker would normally do, and then Joker's like, yeah, that's the ticket. That was all just very entertaining.
Cool. Metal. What did you think of the whole thing?
Of the whole thing, I probably didn't like most of the stories. Reflecting back on it, the lead I thought was all right. It entertained me, but I don't think it's particularly good. Because it felt like, and this is a problem with Deadpool, right? If you throw Deadpool as the crossover with literally anyone and talking about the meta things, is it just starts to feel like a Robot Chicken sketch
Totally
Yeah.
understand.
by the nature of Deadpool.
Right.
So it's like
That-
it can be funny. It'll give me a chuckle, a ha ha. I don't know if I'd ever reread it.
I'm glad you brought that up because
Fair
some of the I've talked about this with a couple other people, and they've kind of zeroed in on this, the fact where it's like, the story is fine, I guess. They were just like, I don't know if the issues were more with Deadpool himself, and so it's not even the writer or the story itself. It's just when you have this character
It's
and
like, that's Deadpool,
the way he
right?
currently he became that. He wasn't originally that,
No,
but
he
Oh
wasn't
no, no,
originally
but
that.
I'm saying that is
yeah,
But
no,
that's how it is
the
now.
star of whatever
Yeah.
story you're gonna put in it.
I don't know if he definitely plays second fiddle to Batman in some ways here. That's which is very interesting.
Yeah, but this may I put it this way: like Watson and Holmes, every Holmes story is told through the eyes of Watson. This is Batman being told through the eyes of Deadpool.
Yeah, Deadpool's definitely
Yeah.
more of the driver of the car,
narrative
even if
voice.
he's not the important person.
Yeah, I yeah. I'm
I-
sorry. I don't want to
Can
cut
I
out. What
tell you-
about?
Oh, sorry.
I was saying before. Sorry to cut you
I
off.
was gonna say,
there,
I think
No, go ahead.
Reese,
Well,
your turn
Metal,
to kind
did
of
you
give us
have did you have any other ideas before? Before we get distracted talking about specific things.
Other ideas is like some of the other stories were a little funny. I think I liked the goofier parts. I really couldn't take any of them seriously. I think even the Wonder Woman one, and I think the problem with the Wonder Woman one to me was that it was just too busy, right? Like I get your ideas on wanting to read this whole story, but as just this standalone thing, it was too busy for me to actually care about it. So I think that the lead story is strong enough to sell it, to read it. I didn't really care too much for the other ones. I got some good laughs. I'd probably put it on a shelf and not reread it again. That's like my overall
Yeah.
opinion of it.
Yeah, the Wonder Woman one really does need to be like 22 pages of its own story. It probably would have been better served if it had more space. Because you're right, it is crammed.
I definitely
Yeah.
wanted more. I agree. Reese, what's your
Yeah.
take on the whole thing?
I feel very mixed about it. I was kind of giving everyone grief about it a little bit at the beginning of the show, but I feel very, very mixed about it because many of the concepts were interesting and some of them even well done on the conceptual level, but much like all not all, but so much of pop culture today, I really feel like that in each individual story and in the collection as a whole, the sum, I mean, the whole is less than the sum of its parts. The thing just left me feeling saddened that this is the state of modern comics, and
They definitely
And-
got worse as they went on.
and it, not just did it get,
And
did it get
Lobo
worse,
is
but,
probably
like,
not the thing to end any story.
yeah, that was, even the name was stupid. Everything about that was regrettable, but it was one of these things. It just was like
Wasn't that like
like,
one
I
page?
just-
It was like a blink
I
and you
just
miss
read-
it.
Yeah.
earlier this week. I just read, of course, last week Dakota North. Really enjoyed that, even though it wasn't flawless. Enjoyed it greatly. I read this. Been reading a bunch of Archie Halloween stories. I picked up a little anthology at the Walmart. I've been enjoying the heck out of it, and just thinking how much more enjoyable those little 8-page Archie stories are than this entire book. And it kind of made me sad. That being said, I don't want. I'm not overtly besmirching the individual creators. Maybe it is a situation where the editorial control and everybody's hand on it was so much that it was there. There were elements that I liked. I did like the dedication of the marriage of the universe. From it wasn't overtly apparent in the first story. You have Deadpool just being in DC's Gotham, no real shifting on it. But every story after that showed a wedding of the universes, and that was at least enjoyable from a conceptual level, right? I liked thinking through the shuffling of the deck, and that was fun. And it was fun in a different way than the Amalgam universe was, where it was actually combining elements of the universes together. In these stories, all those elements were distinct, but unified. And that gave a lot of the same kind of enjoyment conceptually as the post-crisis DC universe, where they took the multiple Earths and the multiple properties DC had acquired and put them together into one cohesive storytelling platform, one stage, unified stage. And I appreciate that aspect and the craft that was placed in there as a whole. It was in the specifics that I really. So in the general, I there were many of the generalities that I liked, but in the specifics, I generally did not. Even the Wonder Woman, Captain America, which I think may have been the strongest conceptually. There were several moments in that story that really soured it for me. And in a way where it's like, oh, yeah, okay, just tell us more about how you hate me. Tell me more about how you hate me. It was a very anti-American story. It was a very anti-male story. Yeah,
I thought you'd think
I'm
that.
just tired of that plot point. I don't need to hear about it anymore.
I'm sorry, I got lost. What are you going
In
on
the
about?
Captain America story.
Oh, I don't remember
Cap barely holds on to his moral fiber, and the only reason he can is because Wonder Woman shows up to question him, and she manipulates him through the use of the lasso of truth, because truth is what Captain America doesn't possess, being Captain America. And it's like, screw you guys. Screw you guys.
To be fair, he's the one who turns around and pays it back at her low moment where she was going to kill Lord.
And I do understand that like interplay, but it's such
shouldn't have happened in the first place.
A minor part of the story. I mean, the meat of the story is that moment in the bunker in Germany in 1944. That's where I'm saying, like, that's where I was seeing that the Marvel characters were often doing more of the deferential nods, if you count them, to the DC universe than the other way around. And I thought that was very interesting. It was almost like the sort of a younger but cooler brother giving respect to the older, not as hip brother, essentially. Right.
So some of those dynamics may be influenced by that, because like I said, Deadpool had to essentially acknowledge that Batman was really cool, and he probably couldn't beat him in a fight. Batman beats Wolverine in the Frank Miller story. Like, if you count it in terms of just like who's kind of got the edge, it's usually the DC characters, which I thought was very interesting, and that's kind of that plays also into the.
And I understand that. But it's just like, if it was any other Marvel character, that's fine, but it's not. It's Cap. Right? And it's let's start with this moral fragility and play on it. And that's one of those things I just found it soured the story for me. It just soured it for me.
And the other problem too is it's not this story, right? Think about it. It's not just this story. The problem is this is also in line with how they've been treating Cap over the last couple decades.
Yep.
So like that's the real issue at hand. It's like they're actually kind of being true to Cap. It's just Cap hasn't really been true to Cap for a long time.
Right. Yeah. It's like the Hollywood issue. Not everything you run into is automatically woke, but after it's been done like for the 100th time, you can't help but assume it.
I'm gonna push back a little bit on that. I see how this could be read that way, but I think that there's a way to read this that's a little more charitable.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that it's like it's really hard not to go there because
I mean, and this is this is also Chip Zdarsky, right? Who, unless I miss my memory on it,
there's so many people on this book. It was that
right, but this particular story is Zdarsky. And like I said, unless I miss my guess, this is also the guy who was fast and loose with the whole Peter and MJ thing, and brought in Paul,
Zdarsky,
right,
and Dodson.
So,
like they're definitely. Sorry, I didn't
Yeah. It's just one of those things. But like I said, that being said, if you can extract, like I said, that moment, that push of the story, I just found it so distasteful and so insulting. But if you can extract that from it, or if you don't read it that way into it, the idea of the shared adventures of Captain America and Wonder Woman through the ages, and seeing them, fighting side by side, right? This person who's the embodiment of the American spirit, dying and rising again,
And they're holding each other accountable. That's the other thing I
Right.
like. They're not
Well,
just
and
fighting
the-
side by
and
side.
the-
The accountability
and-
part's cool.
right? And that's valid. That's valid. I'm not trying to say it's not, but also the idea that, like, one of the things that they bring about is why did Diana come to man's world in this version of the story? Why did she take on America's colors? Why did she stick around? Right? It's because she was so inspired by what Captain America portrayed to her, right? So her, and this is that intermixing of Steve Rogers and Steve
Trevor.
Trevor into the singular Steve. I think they did a really good job of showcasing that, and I think that it was that makes, I can understand the compelling nature of seeing, why didn't we see more of this? And it could have been a situation too where, had this been the featured issue, or had this been like one of the like a Marvel 2-in-1, a flip book, where it's like a 60 pages, you have 30 pages that are Batman, Daredevil, or a Deadpool, and then you flip it over and you have 30 pages of Captain America, Wonder Woman, right? Like, that could be a situation where we get to see more context, and it's not just like a phone-in moment for
Yeah. I wish they'd done that. I actually feel like one of the weaknesses is they were trying to cram so much in here. Some of these stories are like between 1 to 4 pages long. They're not even, at a certain point, they're not even stories, they're just blurbs.
And sometimes they don't even matter, right? And that was the thing about it. Like, at least this story, regardless of my take on it, right? At least it tried to have gravitas, right?
It took itself
And
seriously.
it tried to pay off the gravitas with that moment at the end, which, Cap at the end of many years together, Cap throws himself in front of a laser bolt to save Wonder Woman, and he's on his last breath. And what does he do with his last breath? Is he hands the shield to Diana, right? Like I didn't even like the story, and I'm getting goosebumps explaining it. That's a powerful moment.
Yeah.
Right? And it pays off all of the stuff that was good in the story, right? And so I can't, like I said, I don't want to just say, like, this was the worst comic I've ever read, but it's because
would it fix it?
So many of these kind of things is just a miss for me.
Would it fix it if, like, the main hang-up one is if they swapped when that they were paying each other back? If Steve stopped Diana from killing Hitler, and then she stopped him later after he became, like, an older, more tattered person.
Yes.
Especially because in this case,
yes, I would have.
Unlike a lot of the other ones, Steve has actually debuted a year before Diana too, so he's actually the older of the two, comic-wise.
See, I think that Wonder Woman is. Remember, she says that she watched, like, his, footage or newsreels or whatever they're talking about, and it's like, so there's the idea of Captain America, which, again, I've only, I know the movie, I know essentially some of Captain America. I don't know how brutal he was supposedly back in the 40s. It was war. I don't know if he killed people back in the war. I've heard some people say that, like, what's his name? His sidekick was the one who did all the actual murdering. And
in the Golden Age stories, they were pretty tame.
Obviously,
they were more like kicking and punching Hitler rather than actually, like, wielding the gun so much.
I get that, but I'm just saying that she comes to America and then goes to fight in World War II with Captain America because she was inspired by him, and now here's the actual person, not the figure. It's the difference between the ideal and here's the actual guy who actually has to get his hands dirty because it is a war and there are people
Can I try
dying
to
left and right.
can I try to rehabilitate this a little bit?
Sure.
So in the moment, I don't know if this will help Reese out or not, but in the moment where she's using the lasso, she is not using the lasso, in my reading of it, she is not using the lasso in the ways that she can use it in other comics where she's like, I am going to influence you necessarily. The way I read this is she asks him a couple of questions that he answers very honestly. She's mostly trying to get him to be the most that he already is. She says, do you want to kill this man? He answers truthfully. She probably didn't even need to use the lasso. And then she asks him, is this right? She doesn't say, you'll do what I say. She basically asks him what his true values are. And his true values are obviously to not do this. So she's encouraging him to be more Captain America, not less. So
Right.
I understand that there's a reading that could see this, not charitably. But like I said, I just want to give a pathway that's like, you can read this in a way that I think is very much not her being like, man bad, woman good. She's not saying you're a man, you're violent. I need to show you how to be a woman's way, which is how Marston would have written it.
Yeah.
By the way, this is
But
more
see, you're
generous.
making a mistake here, right? And you're trying to have Reese give charity to a modern comic writer, which has never happened once.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying
Well,
that.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, well, I understand. I do understand what you're saying, but like once again, I mean, the thing is that like, okay,
Marston would have written this worse. is
yeah,
what
no,
I'm saying.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But this comes back to this element, this aspect that it's the same reason I hate the end of Civil War, right? Because the Steve Rogers that I grew up reading always has a backup plan. He doesn't act out of emotion. He doesn't not count the cost of his actions. If Steve does something, it's because Steve, the tactician, has already figured it out. And that comes back to this. So it's and that's the thing is just more of that postmodern deconstructionist nonsense.
Is it really? He's struggling to kill Hitler. Like this is clearly like it's meant any superhero put in this position, you'd have a similar moment to this.
Right.
I
Okay.
feel.
Yeah.
I see, and I disagree because Hitler is the man in charge. He's not uniquely responsible for any of the things that are going on there.
But if you go to comic books, like Golden Age Captain America, not the cover where he punches Hitler, but it was actually a story later where he gets to kick Hitler in the stomach, and it was him, not Himmler. It was who's the fat one?
Goering?
Goering, yeah. So like when Cap actually fought Hitler and Hermann Goering, he didn't kill them. You know what I mean? So like if we're going with the whole like he actually should kill Hitler here, like he actually canonically didn't.
Right.
Well,
Well,
so
no, and I'm not
portraying
saying
him.
he should. I'm not
Okay,
saying
okay.
he should kill Hitler, but
Gotcha.
I'm saying that
Right.
like I don't believe there is ever that Captain America would not already have the plan, right? It's like when the SEALs went in for Osama bin Laden, right? The plan was capture, right? And he made it impossible, and he got shot dead, right? So you've got plan A, you've got plan B. If Hitler's on the ground, it's time for plan A. Hitler's lunging at you with a spear of destiny, it's time for plan B, right?
Yeah.
So this is the situation where Steve gets there first, and now it's like, oh wait, I can go with plan C, murder.
So I will say that this is very interesting because if you look at and I don't want to go too far into this tangent, but it is very interesting to see pre and during World War II content versus stuff we got like 10 to 20 years afterwards. Because during the war, like people like Stan Lee, yeah, we fought the Nazis because they were bad guys. No one knew what they were actually doing. Like the footage of Holocaust and the rest of that came after the fact.
Right.
And so people like Stan were just like, bad guy, fight the bad guy. What we're dealing with here is very interesting. It's not necessarily historical revisionism, but it's definitely the consequences of perspective looking backwards. Because like I said, during the Golden Age, Captain America's like punch Hitler in the jaw because he's the enemy. Captain America now, even though as a soldier at the time, he probably wouldn't have had the full knowledge that we all got by 1960.
Right.
But you can't write a story without that consciousness now, without it seeming tone deaf. So
right, and that's one of the things too. Is you look at like the war crimes people were interested in before, right, in the 40s, in the 30s, were the Blitzkrieg, right, the asymmetrical warfare, the mowing down of villages, even going into the Sudetenland, the violating treaties. Nobody knew about the death camps.
Not to be weird. Not to be weird. Those are pretty standard. The stuff you just mentioned are pretty standard war crimes, though. So
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. Is like some of those aren't even like
exactly.
In some ways, like it's not even a crime, right? Except for the fact that the Germans were invading with the Blitzkrieg, which is a huge deal. I'm not trying to be dismissing of that. The concept of lightning warfare, of getting, of overcoming your opponent with massive force at the beginning of a conflict, that's actually a more moral way to fight than to drag it off slowly, because that's fewer people get killed in a lightning attack than in the trenches.
Right.
So you're talking about the contrast between World War II and World War I.
The contrast between like trench warfare or long drawn, the whole Ukraine thing that's been going on. That long drawn out, what we did in Iraq for 20 years, this pinprick attacks, these targeted strikes where it's not stopping the fighting.
Yeah.
Well, the more moral thing to do is to stop the fighting as quickly as possible. Right.
So let's bring it back to Captain America.
Right. Yeah. but yeah, so that's reasonable. But my point is that like what going back to what I think it was Hutch or was it Metal? It said earlier, if the roles were reversed in the 40s and then later on, right?
Oh, that was me.
Yeah.
If it was a situation where Diana, fresh off of the island, coming from a warrior culture, was more prone to kill, and then later on, an old Cap has to rethink himself.
I have to say, this is all part of. I mean, we could have a good full show talking about war comics and the oddity of how during the actual war, we were making these, pro, America wins and go beat the Germans and the Japanese. But, as much as we put in like cartoon caricatures of the Japanese, if we had, they look, buck teeth and yellow skin and they almost look demonic. But if you had drawn them fairly and actually said what happened during the Bataan Death March, or the rape of Nanking, that would be even worse in terms of riling people up. Back then we didn't even know half this stuff to put it in there, and they wouldn't have, because it was mostly aimed at kids and, and free of that kind of level of violence, obviously. Yeah. And so with both these characters, it's like they're World War II characters, but during the time that World War II was happening, they weren't really being shown the way we would present them. If we were doing a modern comic book set during that time, or, during World War II, we would actually address more weighty issues, and not such silliness, as we did back during actual World War II, during the publication time. So like you say, we could do a whole thing about this, but I think that how he is presented and how Wonder Woman is presented, they both have the problem of, we don't really like how they have been portrayed over the last 20 years. Wonder Woman never had a sword until Kingdom Come. And then when they reinvented her, she always has a sword now.
Well, And let me speak on that for just a second, Hutch, because I think it may be, now correct me other guys, I'm not trying to be rude here if I am here, but I believe that you and I are the only people that read Wonder Woman before she had a sword on this panel.
in this panel, maybe, yeah.
No, I've read
this
some.
panel.
No, I've read some.
I was about to
Yeah.
say there have been
But-
other people.
well,
I mean, the first Wonder Woman I read was before she had a sword because I
Right.
was on backlogs.
Right. And Twitless, what I mean specifically is like, I know you've gone back and read older stories, but I'm thinking about like when you were coming up,
Oh, I see.
just
what you
time
mean.
wise.
No, I think I'd seen some Perez stuff.
Some Perez stuff. Okay.
So yeah. I remember.
but
I remember.
the
I
reason-
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah,
The
because it was
reason
a
I
long
asked
time
that-
before I read comics that were contemporary to my age.
Yeah, and that's fair. But the reason I bring it up too is because I know that Hutch and I, you'll know this, seeing a Wonder Woman with a sword was shocking.
I guess I don't know that it's shocking. It's just not really appropriate. It's a phallic symbol.
I was just about to
You
get
know,
to
it's
that.
just-
Oh yeah, it's the
Yeah.
ultimate.
But-
Yeah, it's.
I mean, it's
yeah,
funny,
Mars-
I guess my
Marston,
take on it
a lasso is an engorging weapon.
Yeah.
You know,
Marston would have had a hernia over it. Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
The reason I say that is not because of that type per se, but the idea that that I mean, like it was for me in that moment in 1999 or whatever it was.
Mhm.
It was the thing like oh crap, it's gotten serious,
Right.
right? Where like just her with a sword with a weapon intended to do death.
Yeah.
That raised the stakes of the story, right? Which is
Right.
why like it wasn't until 2012, 2015 that I started rethinking about Kingdom Come. I was like solidly in love with that story when I first read it, when it first came out, because it was so complex and the
Mhm.
stakes were so high within it, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I started rethinking my memory, my past with comics that I kind of sour on it. I didn't have that opinion at first, but her with the sword was one of these things where it was just like, oh man, it's gotten serious. It's hit the fan now, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I can
And
relate to
so-
that though, right? Because even from my perspective, outside of reading backlogs, most of my experience of Wonder Woman was cartoons. And it really wasn't until the New 52 that started bleeding into animation and stuff.
Mhm.
You know, most of the other stuff, she was just punching things or using a lasso.
But in that framework, and like you were talking about, Hutch, there is something about knee jerk that
Mhm.
I'm probably experiencing because of my frustration with the way these characters have been portrayed in the last 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to showcase Twitless's latest comment.
Okay.
Sorry.
While you're doing that, can I take a shot at this?
Please do. Go ahead.
Because I knew when I first read it that Reese would react this way. He loves Captain America, and he really loves how perfect he's supposed to be. I can understand too, at least when he is part of the group, the idea that he.
Let's go with ideal, not perfect. I don't think Reese needs him to be perfect, but ideal is
Yeah,
probably the
Ideal.
right term.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he cannot stand when people go against that. Now, I'm not the same way because I don't need a character to be perfectly the same all the time. I want to see them go through character development. Right? I want to see them eventually have to have their ups and downs and their trials and whatnot. And so, if I may suggest a way to fix this comic, get rid of and I know people will like this, but for me, just place the entire thing in World War II. I don't need the whole "we've been friends forever" thing. Let this be
See,
an
that was
origin story.
that was the whole appeal of it for me.
To me,
Uh,
it's like I want to see this as a full, 12-issue miniseries with the two working together in World War II.
I mean, yeah, I want to see that too.
And then what you can do is what Reese said. You have her come from a warrior culture, right? Less experienced, inspired by Captain America, who seems to be this perfect noble warrior. And you early on have her have some issue of her own in which he stops her from doing the wrong thing. Then somewhere around issue 11, where they've been through a lot, and then you have Bucky die, and this is his test. This is his belly of the whale moment, where he almost slips up, and she has to repay the favor by bringing him back from the edge.
So we got to be careful, I think, when we're proposing like fixes for comics because
Yeah.
everyone's going to have their version of it.
I know. I'm
I
putting
would
out
totally
thought.
read 12 issues of this though. I will say, I think
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that because of the amount of time we're spending on this, this is the strongest piece. One of if,
I think
if
so.
not
Well,
it's
it's
one of
at least the most potential.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
so,
definitely,
like,
definitely.
we should
The other-
we should probably touch on a couple of the others. This is a wordless comic with Jeff the Land Shark and Crypto.
Now, before we got talk
I don't
about
even know who that is. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
Well-
probably should talk about Batman and Deadpool a little, since that's literally
We
the
did.
title.
kinda.
Oh,
we did a little bit. What? Okay, let's go with it. Let's just go around really quick. What did you like? Because we don't want to spend forever going back over the story. Hutch talked a lot about the story itself and his feelings.
I
About
didn't
it.
talk a lot about it, but
No,
yeah.
no. I meant the part when you first talked about the book. You gave a good summary of the story as a whole. I mean, I don't mean didn't mean you dominated with that.
Yeah.
So you gave a lot of the high points of that story. So, of the plot. So,
Yeah.
what would you say are the best thing and worst thing? Let's go around with that. The best thing or the worst thing about the Batman Deadpool story?
Can I go first? I guess.
Yes.
Okay. The best part was when they are trying to figure out where the Joker could be, and Deadpool and Batman talk about the fact that it was a full moon, and thus the tide would be low, and that would expose a whole bunch of caves, which would be great hideouts. And then Deadpool just starts saying, well, you guys go check out a bunch. I'm going to go to this one. This sounds really cool. It's right near this fair, and I can go and have a corn dog and just wait for the tide to go down. And he's going on and on about the theme park that's nearby, and Batman's like, that's the one. Obviously, that's why. I love that. The part I didn't like was all the and you can say, oh, it's an old joke, but yeah, I didn't like his okay, I did like the fact that he says, I bet you've heard every comment possible about your little boy sidekick.
Right.
So, and he doesn't even mention anything, but then he still kind of goes there again and
Mhm.
again. And it's like, I know that he breaks the fourth wall, but it doesn't really fit with the fact that just moments ago he didn't know who Batman was. He didn't believe that Batman would be scary, and now he's the omniscient character making these kinds of things. It's admittedly, I'm not used to Deadpool as a character, so I don't know how often he does that.
I think
But,
the real deal is that he's the merc with the mouth, and anything he's ever going to say is going to be specifically chosen, specifically worded to
Right.
annoy whoever he's talking to.
Okay.
That's the important thing.
Okay. Well,
Right.
the thing that I did like that the Joker talked about the fact that he's the one who got Deadpool, and he tried to use the cosmic treadmill, and all it did was tone his butt really nice. But but then he got the Dr. Zoom, Professor Zoom, to use it for him and go get this guy, and then they never put him back, and he's just out
Yeah, they just
wandering
leave
the
him
DC universe. And I wanted to have. I really wish that it had ended with Batman leaving, and then he's like, well, I guess I'll just hang around here. And then he hears a hem and turns around, and behind him is Deathstroke and Ambush Bug saying, we'd like to have a word with you.
Yeah, I like that.
That would be a good way to end it. But
That'd have been great. That would have saved the story for me. I'm gonna be completely honest.
yeah, what's
That's
that?
fair.
What made the story?
He
I said
would've
that would have
saved
saved
it.
the story
Oh,
for
what
me.
is saved? Oh, I got
Saved
you.
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yep.
So that's it for me. That's my highs and lows.
Okay.
Okay, how about you, Metal? What was your best and worst take on about that story?
Well, first off, the way I read it is that he actually knew that Bruce Wayne was Batman when he went to go to Bruce Wayne the first time, and he was just messing with him because his whole goal for the killing was to bring him to the Joker anyway. Like that was what he was hired for. He was never going to actually personally kill Batman because Joker wants to kill Batman. So he knew that he was Bruce Wayne the whole time. He was just messing with him. That's Deadpool. That's how Deadpool works. He's always messing with everybody he deals with.
That's probably very true. Yeah.
yeah.
That's how it played. It played wrong for me because I don't know the character too well. So
Yeah.
you're right. That's probably very right. Okay.
So I even kind of like that. I liked that both people were in character. I think that was the high to me. It did feel like almost everybody actually was in character. I can't think of somebody who wasn't, even though we only had very few players. It was like Batman, Alfred,
Right.
Deadpool, Gordon, and Joker. That's like the only players involved in this at all. I felt everybody was in character. Everything meshed the way it should, but I think that was both the high and the low for me. Because like I said at the start, it very much felt like a robot chicken sketch. And that's just kind of what happens when you shove Deadpool into something. So I think my answer is the same thing for both. It's a double-edged sword that cuts both ways. You know.
Yep. How about you, Twitless?
Oh, geez. I think the moment I mentioned it before, Gordon cracking at Deadpool was, I think, the funniest part for me. Which is funny because ironic to me because you end up having the Clown Prince of Crime and Deadpool interacting, and you'd think maybe they could have been a little funnier with their interactions. There were a couple little moments. I think the Joker's glutes getting worked out was also kind of cracked a smile for me. I think I agree with Metal
Cracked
that
a smile.
yeah, definitely. I
Oh,
agree
my
with Metal that I think the high mark of this is the fact that both characters were in character. I didn't read this and go that Batman wouldn't act that way. Batman was like, this is how Batman would handle a guy like this. I could see Batman acting like this with this character. So it's nice when characters are treated, the way they're supposed to be, I guess. The low part. It was just kind of mid. I don't know if I've got like oh gosh, this is such a it ruined it for me. I was just like, okay, it was fine. The ending maybe fell a little flat. Whereas, like I said, with Wonder Woman and Captain America, I was left wanting more, which is typically what you'd want for a comic, or in a comic like this was really impressive. With Deadpool and Batman, it was just like, that's over, and I don't really care if they ever interact again. But again, I attribute that more to just Deadpool being Deadpool. Like, I don't even think that's
Yeah.
anyone's fault. I think it's just the character.
And this is what
And that's-
happens when you put Deadpool in things, you know.
Exactly. I don't even think I don't blame anybody involved who did this. It's wait, who wrote this one again? This was I know
Zeb
Capullo was
Wells.
on
This is Wells.
Zeb Wells. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I don't blame Zeb Wells. I think he did for a project as technically complicated as this.
I think he did better than he usually does writing things.
I'm just saying, like, can you imagine Tom King trying to tackle this?
Oh God, no.
Yeah, like it would be a disaster. So this is, like I said, it was just kind of mid, but like I said, I attribute that more to Deadpool than anything else.
Yeah. I'll go
Yeah,
ahead.
I
and
think
go
we
next.
just fully agree there. You know,
Yeah.
we're like on the same page this time.
I think my favorite part. I really enjoyed the actual like detective work on the roof of the thing like Hutch was talking about. That was actually
Yeah.
cool. But my favorite part was the very Batman 66 reveal, which is also very key for Batman as a whole. But it felt like an episode of the show where Batman was like, oh yeah. I knew you were scheming with the Joker from the minute you offered us to show us the place. It was obvious. And so I thought the quickest way to get here was to just let you kidnap me. And then I wouldn't have to second guess myself. And then Deadpool says that was a really big risk. And Batman says that was zero risk.
Yeah,
And-
that's yeah, yeah.
that was my favorite moment in the story because this was the first. As much as I did not like the story, and part of it was because my lowest part was that reading Deadpool it's like doing penance. It's
Yeah, but it's
joyless.
it's Deadpool's fault though. It's the character.
Yeah. It's joyless. It's mundane. It's banal. It's boring. It's tedious. I can't stand it.
Do you know what? Can I just want to jump in just for a second. I'm not gonna, but I think that because Deadpool really got popular in the like early mid 2000s,
Mm.
when it was like early internet culture, like
Yeah.
Icon has cheeseburger kind of stuff, and like
He's kind
Deadpool-
of like a generational popularity.
I
Like a
think-
lot of the enjoyment is
yeah.
going to vary by generation.
I really think
Like
that
I
he
liked
is,
him a lot when I was younger, and I still
Right.
kind of enjoy him. I don't dislike him.
but to Reese's point, I think that the more we go down, the more it's shown its age. It's like, this is like a 2000s character. We're in 2025. This is starting to become really old.
Well, and it's just like, and
It's
the other
outlived
thing that's
itself.
so irritating about the whole thing is it's just like, it's just diarrhea. It's just this it's like living on a diet of white saltines. There's no content to his speech. It doesn't relay anything. It's not funny or interesting. It's just it's yeah, I can't stand it. So just Deadpool being in the story made it insufferable. The only thing about that I didn't hate was the fact that he made the Joker angry, and that was funny.
Yeah.
That was I genuinely believe that the only funny thing that was in the story was that everything else that he said was just the same kind of stuff that growing up as a comic book reader in the 90s, if there was somebody who wanted to pick on you for reading comics in front of people because they would always borrow comics when no one else was around, they would say the same kind of crap about Batman that Deadpool says. And it's just there to be hurtful and not funny. And it's just like, yeah, okay, sure.
It's like making a Superman has his underwear on the outside joke.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, do something original.
Yeah, come up with something better.
Yeah. What is
So-
the Mexican food that Deadpool likes? It's not tacos.
Chimichanga.
Chimichanga, yeah.
Well,
That's
no,
the
actually,
thing you were-
he does like tacos. Tacos are his favorite. He just likes the word chimichanga.
Okay. See,
Well,
we
who
were
does?
talking about internet culture, and the only thing that I knew about Deadpool for a long
Chimichanga.
time was that he likes chimichangas.
I was actually
Everybody
really
talks about
appreciated
him.
that they did not use that in this.
I thought it's weird that they never really talked about chimichangas in 3 movies because it's the only thing that I knew about him.
And that's
And-
the thing. There are a
So-
lot of people who claim, to be Deadpool fans, and all they do is just run around yelling chimichanga all the time.
Uh-huh.
It can get real old real fast.
Yeah. Maybe
I'd
maybe
like
that's
a large
maybe it
order
ran
of
itself
chunks.
dry. Maybe it ran itself dry and nobody wants to do that anymore. and that's
Again,
why
I
they're
think
making
that
movies.
again, I think that's some of that early 2000s
Yeah.
Yeah.
OMG random humor that because
Yeah.
I don't even I think I've
Omega
seen some
lols.
I've seen some
Yeah.
recent I'm trying to think. I think I've seen some recent Deadpool stuff that doesn't even reference that.
Yeah.
So it's not even like it's not like a catchphrase or anything.
What's his name?
that-
Nostalgia
that he
Critic
has to use.
talked about the difference between Deadpool and Comic-Con Deadpool.
Mhm.
Right? And one is a character, the other is a meme.
Hmm.
You can get
If
either
you get
depending on who
technical
you're
about it,
writing.
every character is a meme.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, so
Definitionally speaking.
so Cartoonicus, what are your best and worst takes of this story before we move on?
Well,
to
to
Jim?
address what you were saying, I actually did not find him as unbearable as that. I want to. I'm putting up an image here to describe this, if you don't mind. Normally, it is very easy for Deadpool to be, rather annoying as a character, right? It's very easy for the Joker to be incredibly annoying as a character. It's easy for Batman to be rather frustrating as a character. I didn't feel that way about any of these 3 characters in this. They were very mild in everything they did, and I actually found it fun to read them. And I think one of the things that may help that out is this very line here. If Deadpool is going to be nothing but serious, not serious at all, and a meme, then Batman takes some of that off of him, right? He balances out the equation. It's not just nothing but Deadpool every single page, which very well could have been. So I think that really helps to balance out the equation to take
Yeah,
some of
just classic goof and straight
the
man.
edge off of it, right?
What was that
As you-
about Ice Age? Why was that showing?
Look at the line. She's done
It's an actual quote from the movie.
and you're and you're no fun at all. She completes you, right? It's like
Oh,
just
okay.
insert Deadpool and Batman in those parts, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
He's tons of fun, and you're no fun at all. He completes you, right? And that's why I think that the comic works in general.
Oh,
And why it's so
hard
unique.
disagree.
I think that's
Especially
why it's
'cause,
so
like,
unique
Batman's
and
very
different
fun.
from all the other stories in this. Is that it didn't just mash up
I
two
feel-
characters who are the same.
I feel like Batman actually had the most fun out of everybody in that comic. If retroactively looking at it, taking the
Yeah,
plan and
that's-
everything.
That's
That
probably
might
true.
also be an
That's
interesting
true.
way of looking at it. That
I
Deadpool
feel like
is the only
Crypto and Jeff had the
character-
most fun,
who
and
can
actually
talk-
Rocket.
No,
Raccoon
I
had a-
meant in that specific story of the comic.
Oh,
Think about what that
okay,
means.
Yeah,
Deadpool
Batman
can
does love it
actually
when a plan
cause
comes
Batman.
together.
Think about it. Deadpool can actually cause Batman to have fun. That is power you can't buy.
I think
Well, I think
when you write him right, Batman has fun a lot. Okay.
yeah,
he
I
likes the
agree with-
detective
with
work.
Metal. Yep. It's
The
fulfilling.
low point of the story for me was having to see Deadpool's face with Joker face on it. That was pretty horrifying.
Oh, the Joker Venom, where he's like he's
Yeah.
That was actually a really nice little. That was probably one of the only, because when you mix characters together, you want there to be something interesting about how their powers, or at least their gimmicks, are going to interact. Otherwise, you're just mixing sardines and peanut butter. And the thing that was interesting wasn't Deadpool and Batman so much in terms of like their abilities. It was how Joker interacted with Deadpool. First off, it was the fact that they have all this character overlap. They're both kind of crazy. Which one of them's going to out crazy the other? But then the other thing was the fact that Joker Venom is often, portrayed as being this really, toxic, deadly kind of gas. And Deadpool can, through his regenerative abilities, survive it, but it definitely makes him. It has an impact. So you get to see that.
It has
That was
the
an interesting.
funniest possible impact because it's Deadpool.
Yeah, it just makes him crazier. But that was an interesting interaction, and it's cool to see those, because part of the fun, if you're gonna do this, if you're gonna do crossovers, and that's as Reese said, it's like Super Smash Brothers. You're taking your toys, and that's what these are, and that's fine.
Yeah, those two are the fan demand crossover. Like, people have been wanting to mix Joker and Deadpool together forever. Even like Bat in the Sun and stuff have done like Joker versus Deadpool.
Well, I've seen YouTube
it's a hugely
videos and
popular
stuff.
combo.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was an interesting interaction. That's part of the reason why you're here, is to see, those interactions. Speaking of interactions, I think the other one that really did the most with the having interactions with characters' abilities and powers would probably be the Green Lantern story with with Rocket Raccoon.
Right. Before we get that, I do want to talk about a little bit
Exchange
more about.
program.
Before we get that a little bit, because that is really fun. I would want to talk a little bit about the Jeff the Land Shark and Crypto story, which basically these two self-aware super pets are playing volleyball across, the Arctic, and that's the story. But
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I actually liked that one a lot, though.
I actually
I love
it.
wordless
I
stories. It's all action. It's all expression. I think it was fun.
As a palate cleanser for an anthology, I think it's fine. I was neither offended nor impressed by it.
That was the only story I did not have any significant reservations toward. So take that for what it's worth. Not that I want an entire book of Crypto and Jeff or anything.
Oh no, it's best as like a shorter, a filler, or
Yeah.
Like I said,
you said an anchor piece.
Yeah, it was a great, like I said, palate cleanser. It's a great, this book is so dense otherwise. Having something to kind of like break it up and, it's a very light read before you get into more of the dense stuff. It's like, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I just wish I knew who this character was and who fires the arrow into the volleyball with a message saying "Jeff, come home." I don't even know who this is. There's nothing saying what
I really
this
didn't get
character
that
is
story.
from.
I think it would probably be Kate Bishop would probably be the one firing it.
Yeah,
right?
it's the female Hawkeye, Kate Bishop.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because I believe that Jeff's become a psychic character in Kelly
in like the
Thompson's
West Coast Avengers, I think.
West Coast Avengers,
Okay.
or the Hawkeye book that she writes. So
Okay. Yeah, I had no idea who that is, or it's kind of weird because Crypto is relatively famous, and I have no idea who this Jeff is. And you'd think that there would be a little bit of an introduction for anybody who doesn't know. I mean,
Yeah. Again, I think they just assume that
Yeah.
everyone plays or is aware of Marvel.
Well, and
runs.
and here's
Yeah.
the thing is, one of the questions about this story that I have is like Jeff was just created as a gag character, and they made a web comic of him, and they used it kind of as a thingamy as a mascot of the post all new, all different internet promotion and stuff. But I don't know the origin story of Jeff. Does he have one? Does it matter? Does anybody know?
I do not.
I knew at one point.
Okay.
That's
Does
about
not matter. that's a pretty definitive evidence that it does not in fact matter. So, but
It's created by MODOK.
Oh.
Yes, that
there you
sounds
go.
about right.
Because why not?
Kevin Smith's Daredevil Green Arrow. Do we even want to discuss it? It seemed very boilerplate.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
It's fine.
It was fine.
It was not the worst thing Kevin Smith has ever written in a comic.
And he finished it, so that's nice.
I think the
yeah.
only reason they were put together is because they're red and green.
Well, Kevin Smith had written both of those characters previously.
Oh.
Right.
So that's another thing that's interesting is that you have can I defend Frank Miller now?
Yes,
not yet.
let's
We
do
got to
it.
get through Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to
we-
do the Green
we can
Lantern
go-
one first.
Okay, all right.
It's only
If you
3
don't mind-
pages.
I want to ask everybody, including the chat, a question here. Put up my image for a second, if you would.
Okay.
Go ahead. Take a side. Which one?
I'm going to
What
be
you
with
going with?
Rocket Raccoon.
I don't
That's
see
funny.
why they're not on the team. On a team.
They could be good cop, bad cop together, actually.
Yes,
see,
that's
we're
what I'm
about-
saying.
I like that Rocket used the Guy Gardner version of the costume.
Yeah, right.
That's just-
Yeah, that was fun.
yeah.
That's definitely more fitting for him.
So this story, of course, is a situation where there is a superhero exchange program between the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Guardians of the Universe, which, okay, Twitless, what did you think about this story?
This 3-page. This is where
Not
they started.
really a story.
Yeah, this is where they started to. This is the part of the comic where they started to become more blurbs or memes / jokes, and that's
Yep.
fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And on the one hand, it's like more content to read, but it was definitely like as Metal said, this is where it started becoming Robot Chicken bits.
Yeah. And these
so
are
it was-
cool things in like a bigger, fuller comic mag, which lengthwise this almost was. But
Yeah. I actually liked it. I liked the Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Universe acknowledging each other at the beginning, and I don't know, it was more fun. It's not taking itself all that seriously, because I mean, in reality, Hal Jordan would never just hand over his ring to somebody else. But yeah, it's just a bit of goofiness, and like you
Right,
say, robot chicken level stuff.
Yeah, it was because the way it ends with Parallax with an Infinity Gauntlet. That would
See,
definitely
yeah,
be a big deal if we were taking this seriously.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that's actually the point, right? That I hate, right? Like the thing about this is there's all these little vignettes of tiny little things that, like Rocket Raccoon being morally questionable animal and being given the power of the Green Lanterns.
Right.
So sometimes he's a hero, sometimes he's a villain, sometimes he's a little of both. And it kind of plays in these little 1 or 2 panel vignettes that it was like, I could see more being done of this. I mean, it was at least humorous, right? That a really good comedy writer or a really good humor writer could have made a fun action comedy story with this premise.
Mhm.
And this was just kind of a tease that something of this could happen. But the
And
thing,
how many pages was this again?
I think it was 3.
It's 2
It-
pages.
That's part of the
2.
deal, right? The
Yeah.
page numbers keep getting lower and lower as it goes on, and that's really what is making me wonder if, for some reason, they were actually doing this in order and running out of time.
They fluctuate a bit. The Frank Miller one's 4 pages. They don't always go down.
But
The
but
logo
the-
is one, right? Like,
That's true.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with that, right? The editor, the person who's actually in charge of the whole book, treating it like a magazine, will assign your page count before anybody even starts on the job, so they can write around their page count. So you have your feature, right? Then you might have a featurette, which is clearly based on page
they have to
count.
hit
Would be the
'cause
Wonder
they have-
Woman one is the
They have to hit
featurette.
their they
Yeah.
have to hit their multiples of 4. They can't just
Yeah.
slap dashes together unless it's
So
like,
they
hard bound.
assign everything. It was like, okay, especially if you get like a bigger person, like you can't give Frank Miller nothing, but also he's only going to give you so much of his time as well.
but why would you do it that way? Constantly going down in page numbers instead of having varied things and some of the small stuff in the middle, and then having ending it with one big special story that leaves you. You know what I mean? It's like
I mean,
Well, I don't know.
There's different ways.
ending
to-
it on Lobo is just a really weird feeling.
Actually,
You have to take
okay,
that up
so-
with the editor.
So again, I'm not. I think that the perspective is meant to be a little different. The ending isn't just with Lobo. The ending is a nod to the people the longtime readers of not just Marvel and DC, but people who are invested in Marvel and DC crossovers. Because that was an Easter egg for Do You Remember Amalgam Comics?
Yep.
Like that was a member berry for them specifically. Really,
Absolutely.
nothing
Very
more,
much.
nothing less.
Yeah, but but back to the story. The very ending of the story where we're introducing Parallax with the Infinity Gauntlet, like that bothered me because like everything in the rest of the story was really goofy, right? But the idea that you've got Hal Jordan and all of a sudden he's instantly corrupted by the Infinity Gauntlet, like that doesn't even make sense. Like it barely made sense for Hal Jordan suffering the loss of an entire city of people to go mad and wipe out his entire
You're taking this way too seriously. It is just a goof.
You
two panels-
automatically
This
put
is
more
a
thought into it.
joke
It has
of
two panels.
cops arresting
Green
Thanos.
Arrow,
You
and it's
know?
done. I mean,
Yeah.
that's all. Rocket Raccoon doesn't even get to do anything. He makes fun of Green Lantern, Green Arrow stories for 2 panels, and then it's just a joke about okay, it's not working out, and
It's a
Parallax.
robot,
That's it.
chicken bit. Yeah.
That's all it is. Yeah.
That's
It-
fair.
but
I just
but-
felt like I felt it was tonally diverse.
I hate any reference to Parallax. I wish they would just wipe him from memory. Why didn't they reboot Green Lantern a bit? And it's like just forget the whole Parallax thing. And instead,
Yep.
Jeff Johns made it such an intrinsic part of the universe. And it's like, no, please, we hate
Yeah.
that. Get rid of him. Yeah.
Double down on a terrible idea. Anyway, Old Man
Yeah.
Logan. Let's go ahead and
Okay.
hit that one.
All right.
So, like you mentioned with the Kevin Smith thing, what we have here, and this is my best defense for what we're seeing here. It's more of a meta thing. So this story is much less, in my opinion, much less to the point of not at all being about Batman and Wolverine. This, do you want to scroll down a little bit to show what little there is of this? What we have here.
I think you're Sharon.
Is it me? Oh, you're right. Okay, I guess that. Okay,
Oh.
I've lost who's showing what. So this is Showdown. It's like 4 pages, and it's this is not Batman versus Wolverine. What this is Frank Miller. 2 parts of Frank Miller's career clashing, and I think that's what we're meant to see it as. 'Cause
Yeah.
Frank Miller has 2 very, not just like well known, but like titanically well known, like Dark Knight Returns, like is on every list of significant graphic novels that you can find from, at least from a scholarly perspective. And his Wolverine miniseries is again also, very well known. That famous cover of him doing the kind of Khmer. So you've
this is going to be awkward, but I had no idea he ever did anything with Wolverine.
yes. big time.
Same here.
So
Yeah.
so what we're seeing here, and I think if you read it just as an actual story, it's like, what the hell was that? But if you read it as, this is Frank Miller having fun with literally two sides of things he is very well known for. Obviously, he's also well known for, I know he's well known for other things, including, Daredevil. But like, these are two sides, and you can even see it here, left and right, the two silhouettes going at each other. And so from there, it was just like, okay, this is just Frank Miller, going at himself. And once I read it that way, it was fine, because I didn't take any of it seriously, because it's just Frank Miller having fun with the things he's done. It's, like I said, in a way, I feel like it's almost a bit of a, I don't know if I call it a commentary, but it's definitely an interaction clash with his career.
Yeah.
Happening on page.
Can I point out that?
Yeah,
That
this
Frank Miller-
is the cover, by the way, of the first issue of that miniseries. So
Yeah.
that Frank
So
Miller.
this has two cases where a writer, famous comic book writer who has written both DC and Marvel, brings those together because as a demonstration of, hey, here's the two characters I wrote. Yeah, and Frank Miller's is 3 pages long, gigantic, monstrous panels of come here, boof, bams, crash. And he's like, and I put bombs on you, blam, okay, bye. He's like, come back, you want to fight later. It's like, and Kevin Smith's is like, what, 20 pages of lot of text. I mean,
But
there's
you see
a lot of text.
But
Yeah.
the way you described it, Hutch, is such a
Yeah.
like, it's like I said, I almost feel like that's what Frank Miller is. Clearly someone who's as smart as Frank Miller, if he's
Yeah.
doing this as shallowly as he's doing it, like, it has to be intentional.
Yeah.
So like that's what I'm saying, is like, it's like, this is clearly Frank Miller being like, okay, I understand the assignment. The assignment is the action figures are going to be mushed together. So
Yeah.
let me do that in the most juvenile mash, bang, bang way
Well, yeah,
possible.
especially because this is post rehab Frank Miller, so we can't blame it on the booze.
So- but like, but from an artistic way, there's something kind of like artistically interesting when you do it so transparently. I'm literally going to take them and make them go "Meow, rah," like.
Yeah.
It's
But
like-
here's the thing. Here's the thing about that. Okay, there's no dark story going on here. There's no big complex metaphorical issue. All right, half panels are entirely in silhouette. This was the easiest thing to draw in the world. This is my proof for the world that Frank Miller uses his new style as an excuse to draw quickly. I rest my case.
Nah, it's. I mean, I'm sure that's a fringe.
tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a fringe benefit. And we could probably have a whole stream about, like, Frank Miller's art style over time. He's definitely embraced a very different. How do we
Like,
call
I
it?
think the reason he uses silhouettes is to show that the way he draws both Bruce and Logan are functionally the same, except for some few different features that make them Batman or Wolverine.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is like,
Yeah.
because he's doing it the way he's doing it. We can also highlight the fact that, like, these are two shadows that are almost they're very similar, and that like, you reduce the icon to, like, its outline. You know what I mean? There's some interesting So like I said, on the surface, this story has like nothing to it, but because it's Frank Miller and because of the background of it, I think it's actually way more interesting than some of the other stories that actually had more in them in this book. So it's an interesting. It's
I
an
love that
interesting
they have to
example.
squat to fit into the panels.
Mhm.
Very Liefeldian there.
But
Yeah.
again, this is Miller. Miller. This for all this is. This is him. This isn't because he can't draw.
No,
This
no,
is
I'm not
because
saying it is.
he's-
I'm
he's
saying this is so he
choosing-
doesn't have to draw.
He's
Yeah.
choosing. I feel like, again, it's not just that I'm with. I think Metal pegged it more when it's the tongue in cheek. He is having a laugh at this because that's what this is.
Yeah.
This is
And-
like a satire of how he did Dark Knight. This Batman
Uh-huh.
is so boxy and square, much more so than it's almost a parody
Yeah.
of how he did the Dark Knight, because
But
his Dark Knight was
everything
not
he's
this
done for the
squared
last
off.
15 years has been that parody, though.
Yeah,
I think the Dark Knight Strikes Back. His art style definitely, like, it went on this. I don't know if it's hard to come up with the right word for it because I think a lot of I don't know how much of it's intentional, but it definitely followed this this
We
almost
could review Dark Knight
degenerated.
Strikes Back sometime. I wouldn't mind
Dude, we
talking
could
about it.
spend
Elongated Man's in it, so I'll
half
talk
an
about
hour
it.
on just this last panel alone.
I think you're probably right.
But
that's
anyway,
often the case with his art for me.
I found this one to be fascinating. It's so this one and the Wonder Woman one are the ones I will probably continually like mentally revisit in terms of like wanting to think about. And like I said, I think you could probably write a whole essay about what's going on in this one, which is interesting. So that's my defense of this. From a if you're looking for an actual story in this, look elsewhere. that's not what it's even trying to do. So if you were looking for that, you're gonna get really frustrated.
Right.
That's hilarious. Yeah. And the last one's one page. And I think you're right as far as reading that. I think that logo is exactly a nod to the whole amalgam thing,
Mhm.
unquestionably.
Right. I
It
mean, at least
definitely
there's
is because
one
it talks
interesting
about
thing
dark side. What is it? The Thanos side. It's definitely and Super Soldier. They're both referenced, so it is absolutely.
if there's one interesting thing about that is that it basically sums up the whole book. Right? Instead of doing what everybody else has been doing now, it just says, okay, let's literally fuse the two universes into one.
Well,
And I
that's what
guess
that's what amalgam was.
Right.
That's a nod to what that was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess there's nobody better to do that with than Lobo because nobody takes him seriously.
Well,
Right.
then the thing I think you might be missing, Cartoonicus, is like back in 1996, there was a month where DC and Marvel suspended publication of their comics
Mhm.
and only printed amalgam books together.
Yeah.
And so you couldn't get Batman on the shelf, but you could get Bruce Wayne, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And
You
Darkclaw.
could get Darkclaw.
Yeah.
And you could get what was it, the Spider Boy, which is a mashup of Spider-Man and Superboy.
Superboy.
Mhm.
And you could get the Super Soldier, which was Captain America and Superman, and a whole bunch of them. And I can't remember if Logo was specifically one of them, but
No, logo was invented, I think, for this book.
but the ones they're mentioning are listed on there. And,
It almost makes me feel like this then should have been like the cold open for the book.
See,
Yeah.
it's the after stinger. It's the after credits Easter egg. It's
Yeah.
it's what it is.
But-
yeah,
But remember that what's his name? The Wolverine already was Darkclaw. He wasn't crossed with Lobo, so it's kind of negating the other one. So yeah, there's I kind of
Besides,
I would love them to reshuffle and do another amalgam with all
Right.
new versions, but I always thought that Super Soldier should have fought Mr. Fin Fang Foom, who returns after 90 days, a little dragon in a bowler hat.
Are
you know.
we ever going to see that character again? I feel like he'd be banned at this point.
I
he
don't know.
shows up in comics here
Yeah.
and there.
Who
And
is
he was
that?
in like I think it was in an animation not that long ago too.
Who is that? Fin Fang
Fin Fang
Foom or
Foom.
Mr.
The
T?
last time I remember seeing him, I think, was in that Fantastic Four anime.
Hmm.
Well, and the one thing that I had missed on here is on Logo's bike. It's got a "Made in Canada" sticker on it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there you go, Ryan North.
I loved his
Problem
I loved his new term. I feel like they mixed him together just so he could say Bub Stitches.
Mm.
Jeez.
Bub Stitches. Yeah, I'm sure. It's from the mind that brought you the Amazing Squirrel Girl and the comic and the dinosaur comic. So
You mean Devil Dinosaur? Or?
no. The Dinosaur Comics, the web comic.
The webcomics.
Hmm.
That's Ryan North. So
So okay, so overall, as we think about wrapping this up, I think this comic's totally worth it as a one shot. I think they could have done so much worse, and I think it's
Yes.
fine. And there are even moments that I think are actually go to good or to even great and make me want to read more. If this was a sampling, like I said, there were certain stories that I was like, take it or leave it. A couple of them that made me go, I'll read a whole series about that. I feel like that's a win.
You know, that is true. That is one thing I will say is I think it's very much like what I was talking about with Rebirth, or at least when it started. Is if you take each one of these comics and just look at it at what it is, you'll probably find that the fans of that IP, whether it be Frank Miller or Deadpool, Green Lantern, Green Arrow and Daredevil,
Daredevil.
whatnot. It probably does play, each one of these play to whoever the fans of those properties are very well. Right? Like, I may not understand the Daredevil and Green Lantern, but I'm not exactly a fan of either of those characters and know very little about them. Right? I don't care for Frank Miller, but you can totally see that it is Frank Miller being Frank Miller. So it's almost as if they just let each writer say, here, play to your fans at 100%, and we'll put it in.
I hope they do. I hope they do. I hope this is a heralding of more crossovers of this type. I think that's just swell. I think that energy is something that has been missing from the genre industry for a while. I'm glad to see it get a little bit of a refresh, and like I said, I hope they get some more traction on that.
I wonder if it is a sign of a new type of crossover, because like the last time I remember DC and Marvel doing a crossover, it was like, I think it was called Marvel versus DC or DC versus Marvel, and they literally had this massive year-long miniseries where they had something magical happened that merged the two multiverses together, and they're meeting each other for the first time. This is clearly just like the Sonic DC thing. Like, it's a one-time thing that is not supposed to necessarily have any sort of actual canon. It could be that this is what we're going to start seeing in crossovers going forward. It's like no more trying to come up with some crazy story to justify all this. Let's just play around in the sandbox.
Yeah, there was a lot of after Amalgam, and that was the big event, DC versus Marvel, and then it spun out to Amalgam, and they did the cross printings and all that kind of stuff. After that, there were several projects that were there was a Captain America Batman crossover that was set in the 40s and had some of the cover art was done by, I think, Dick Sprang's last things before he died, actually. And then there was Batman Daredevil. There was Batman Punisher, two miniseries of that that were all in that time. There was Superman. I can't remember who they did, but there's several of those. And with that, with a lot of those ones, they didn't explain how they were in each other's universes. They just were. The Batman Daredevil one of them anyway, had art by Scott McDaniel, who'd been the regular Daredevil artist for a while there. And that was actually really interesting because it had the Owl and who was the Batman villain they had with that one. But it was just a Batman visits New York City and gets caught into Daredevil's, whole ongoing stuff that he was going on for the time.
Which is
Which
usually
I think you should
how they
do
back then.
if it's just going to be quick, right? Like if you're going to do a long series, it's going to even up to 12 issues, you need to explain why things are happening. But if you do like a 1-2 issue thing, don't bother explaining. Just have fun with it. Go out.
Well,
swinging.
And that's what I'm saying. They didn't.
Well, and I wouldn't think if you're with Twitlis's favorite series, the Captain America, Wonder Woman, Best Friends Forever. I don't think you need to explain it because you're telling the origin story, and so you just
Right,
have a
it's World War
situation
II.
where
Yeah.
where
But
you
that
just-
is part of
there-
the explanation, right? Like you technically are explaining it by doing that. So
But
Yeah,
my point
yeah.
is that we're going to continue on here, and anything that happens with Captain America will never mention Wonder Woman again. What we are seeing is somebody say, "Here, take this story. It's fun." Right?
Well,
Um,
I mean, eventually somebody's going to do that.
And
You know, it's only a
they
matter
could
of
have done
time.
some. They could have done something like AVX and drug this out for a year or two and had 14 different titles, take different parts of the crossover. They didn't. They just created one book and said, here's a bunch of silly little stories. And that's a very different way of doing crossovers, a very different way of handling it. I won't say if it's right or wrong. I just think it's interesting.
I hope they do more. I hope this is a good
Yeah.
sign. I hope they got good traction and reception on it. Like I said, it's cool.
Actually, I felt the opposite about this in one regard than I did about the Sonic crossover.
Okay.
And the Sonic crossover, as I was reading it, felt very much like something that was trying to sell comics to people who didn't really read the comics a lot.
Oh, yeah, I
Not that they
remember
weren't also trying to get the Archie comic people, but they were all trying to get like Sonic people who just play games or watch movies to read it as well, right? Like that's what it felt like. This felt the polar opposite, where it was targeted directly
Right.
at longtime fans of comics.
Because otherwise you can't understand it. Yeah. That's interesting.
Could be.
I did want to mention something about, as we're talking about DC and Marvel crossovers. I think probably one of my favorites also has Batman in it. It's Batman Captain America, which was done by John Byrne, and
Interesting.
it just had Batman and Captain America in the same universe without any explanation whatsoever. And I just thought it was fantastic. And what I liked the most was that Joker and the Red Skull
Red
meet,
Skull.
and they immediately blast each other with their respective gases, and find that they have no effect on each other because they're both immune. And
That's the one
It's
where
just-
Joker's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a homicidal maniac, but I'm not a Nazi."
yeah,
Oh gosh, that's right. I hated this.
I did like that one. That's yeah.
It works
and I
in
love
context, though,
Yeah.
because of the humor of it.
Right.
I love that
It's like
they.
that.
I love that
like
they
that
fall
moment in
on-
Rocketeer.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that they're dropped on an atomic bomb, and it blows up, and then they just say, "Well, I don't think we've seen the last of them," and it's like because the Joker always comes back.
Yeah.
He
yeah.
died how many times, and he just comes back, no explanation, So yeah, that was I don't know. I love that one. I also love that they meet in their secret identities, and just by fighting each other, they know that the other one is like, "You must be Batman. He's the only person who could go toe to toe with me." And it's I don't know. I love that book. There's some books that just they get it. They know how to cross these things over well, and others just struggle with it. And I mean, this is a good sampling here of the good and the bad of how to do it. But if they ever decide to do something else, I'm just going to throw this out there. If they ever decide to do another one of these, and they have 4 to 8 pages they need to fill, I can do a Reed Richards, Ralph Dibny crossover. They're both married. They're both married to women named Sue. They both want to get the penthouse of the hotel, and they get their room keys mixed up. There you go. I can get it done in 4 pages. Call me.
I don't know. That's a bit of a reach, don't you think?
Yes, it would be.
Okay, guys, that's the show. Thank you for tuning in. If you guys hopefully you enjoyed it, and maybe you found the next book you guys want to buy. It I think is at your local comic shop right now.
But can you get it at Circle K? That's the question. Probably not. It's only old stuff.
Let's not talk about that right now. I had a very long conversation off stream on that. Anyhow, so that is the thing. I think I can't remember what we're doing next week for sure.
We were talking about doing Avengers versus X-Men, but
Yes,
maybe.
that's the one. Maybe.
I think I can pull that off.
Speaking of crossovers,
That's not even a crossover. It's nonsense.
If we do
It's an
Avengers
epic
versus X
battle
Men,
of worldviews.
if you
Okay.
want, if you
Nonsense is exactly how I would describe it. So yeah.
if you
Ooh,
If
it's
you-
already shots
we do
fired.
if we do Avengers vs X Men, y'all are gonna want to be here. It's gonna be a good.
I am
good,
not
good
sticking
combo.
around for another hour-long conversation after we end the stream here. Okay, I'm not
Oh, I have
doing
to
it.
eat anyway. So
Well, no, we got to save that for the show.
How
Yeah.
long is Avengers versus X Men?
yes.
What? How long?
Yes.
No, I mean I don't mean the show discussion. I mean, how is this like a maxi series? Is it a one shot? What are we talking?
It's a
I've
miniseries.
never heard of it.
It's
Okay.
miniseries.
How many
There's-
issues is it?
there's-
It's like
I
a
think
trade. It's a trade. It depends how much of the side stuff you want to read. We can talk about it afterwards. I'll give you a
Yeah.
little rundown on it.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying it out loud right now. I don't know if I'll be any good on this because it's the two sides of the Marvel universe
Right.
that I don't think work well together at all. It's like we hate
I thought you were
mutants
gonna say.
in a world where we love superheroes, and it's like how do
Yeah,
these
Your perspective on that is probably what would actually make you a really good voice on the panel.
Okay,
Because
well,
the
then I should-
outsider.
Yeah.
I just have to read it and figure out who all these characters are. Okay.
That's amazing. Okay, that's the show. Tune in next time, and until then, keep a weather eye on that horizon for more comic-y goodness. You guys have a great night. Bye.
Bye.